I think I might have told this story before on the.
Already? Oh, well, it's fine. No, I'm
No
sure
chance of that. No chance of you repeating any of your anecdotes, James. Don't worry. They will be edited out.
We were just chatting about me being on a boat for work yesterday,
Oh, dear.
and it got me thinking about least favourite forms of work transport.
That would be a boat, would it?
Mine's a helicopter. I really don't want to go on a helicopter again.
Yeah, I almost a few years ago had an awful earthquake in Nepal. There was a helicopter, and it was very, very, very full. There were way too many people in it, and we were almost sort of among those getting onto it. And then luckily we didn't have to get on. But there was even a dog inside this tiny helicopter, but it managed to take off, thankfully, and landed safely. Luckily, we weren't on it. James?
I'm with you, Martha. It's the boat. We did a fishing story once, and the fisherman, we were paying him money to go out. He said, look, I wouldn't go out, and nobody else is going out, but you're paying me. I mean, if you want to go out, fine. We had a deadline, so I said, yeah, take us out. And I just remember being on this boat, holding on to, we broke the harbour wall, holding on to this rope at the side. I was like being sick. The wind was blowing it back the way. And then the waves, which were way above the height of the boat, were coming over to wash it all off. So and that was like a cycle. 9 hours I was on this thing. And, ever since,
oh my God,
I've not been able to go on I took the kids to the play park, couldn't go on the swings, the roundabouts. I've got permanent motion sickness.
That sounds like a complaint to HR to me.
You think there could be money in it?
Anyway, I'm Mark Stone, and I'm at home in the northwest of Washington, D.C. tonight.
And I'm James Matthews, still and safe on dry land in the podcast studio. And, well, today we've seen a few turkeys down at the White House. Donald Trump was there as well.
I'm Martha Kellner in Los Angeles, and as I say, I've been out off the coast of California seeing the potential effects of Donald Trump's drill baby drill policy.
Yeah, and Ukrainians push for Zelensky to come to the White House or go to Mar-a-Lago, but Trump says he will only meet the president when peace is nearly final. So how close are we to a truce between Russia and Ukraine? We will drill down into that.
We'll get stuck into Ukraine in a minute, but for starters, let's do the turkey. At the White House, it was the annual Turkey Pardon Day. It's a Thanksgiving thing here. 2 turkeys are pardoned by the president. Step forward, Gobble and Waddle, 2 50-pounders who lined up before Donald Trump and his wife, Melania.
Gobble, I just want to tell you this, very important. You are hereby unconditionally pardoned. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
This is one of those particularly and peculiarly American traditions, isn't it? So these turkeys, before they were presented to Donald Trump, were brought into the White House briefing room alongside Caroline Leavitt, press secretary, of course, and she'd brought her baby son in as well. He was crawling along next to these turkeys. There was also a little bit of health and safety guidance. Designated journalists who were covering this event on Tuesday, you were there, Mark, as well.
Yeah.
They were told, and this is word for word, please be mindful of your surroundings, as they are not media trained in the traditional sense. My understanding is she was talking about the turkeys here. What was it like there, Mark?
Yeah, Matt, it's absolutely mad. This it's kind of wonderful American tradition, but completely mad as well. There was literally a turkey in the briefing room, only one. I don't know if it was Waddle or what's the other one called, Gobble, but only one turned up in the briefing room. Absolutely massive, biggest turkey I've ever seen, no doubt about that. And it looked as if it had had a blow dry because it was all sort of bouffant up, whiter than ever, and all very funny. Gags aplenty as well in the White House. Trump himself joking whether he should rename Gobble and Waddle Nancy and Chuck, except of course he said he wouldn't pardon Pelosi or Schumer. His staffers were suggesting that Gobble and Waddle should be deported to that notorious jail in El Salvador. Ho, ho, ho. And there was what I thought was quite smart, a cheeky question. The Cheeky Question Award went to a clever reporter who inquired to Caroline Levitt in front of Gobble, or was it Waddle, asked whether Trump had met either of these turkeys before, to which the answer was no. And then the reporter said, so another pardon of a character that Trump doesn't know and has never met.
Yeah, not for the first time. Sounds like the Taste and Decency Olympics down at the White House. all taste and no decency. Of course, last year it was Peach and Blossom. They were the turkeys who were pardoned. They got a mention in the Trump banter, actually. I think it was banter at least. He said their pardons were being rescinded because he reckoned it was signed off not by Joe Biden last time round, but by his auto pen. It's all politics.
Before going any further, I want to make an important announcement, because you remember last year, after a thorough and very rigorous investigation by Pam Bondi and all of the people at Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the White House Counsel's Office, and the Department of Everything. We have a Department of Everything. You know what that is? I think that's called the White House. Into a terrible situation caused by a man named Sleepy Joe Biden. He used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined, that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid.
Even the turkeys were rolling their eyes at that.
So Peach and Blossom, pardon last year, that has been rescinded. They'll be on the plates this year. I have to say, when he announced that, when he said, I've got an important announcement to make, I genuinely fell for it. I thought there was going to be some serious announcement about Ukraine or something else, but I was wrong.
This Thanksgiving turkey pardon first came about in the Truman White House. It's, a big American political tradition, but I guess today it did feel slightly trivial, given that there did seem to be growing momentum over a peace deal with Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, and I think there is, although over the course of the day, as ever, things ebbed and flowed, and what we thought might be a genuine moment of momentum turned out to be perhaps just a little bit less than that. What we do know is that Dan Driscoll, the ever powerful, it seems, or increasingly influential or important Army Secretary of the Army, he, it turns out, has been in Abu Dhabi for the last couple of days, hashing out the framework of a deal between Russia and Ukraine. We think he was talking to the Ukrainians there. We think he was talking to the Russians there as well, although they wouldn't confirm that from Moscow. What's not clear is what level those talks are taking place at. But there is clearly a sense of momentum. Talks there. Talk about Zelensky perhaps coming to America. I don't think that's going to happen now anytime very soon, like the next day or two. But certainly over the course of the day, lots has been happening.
Yeah, we all woke to a social media post on Tuesday from Rustem Umerov. He's Ukraine's national security advisor. He suggested that common understanding had been reached between the United States and Ukraine. It's a pullback from the 28-point plan floated late last week. We don't have all the details. But clearly last week it was the Russian wish list dressed up as a peace proposal. This is rather closer to what Ukraine and its allies are satisfied with. Trump, he's talking about only a few remaining points of disagreement. He's talking about tremendous progress. And as you say, Mark, Zelensky, well, he's been on standby for a US trip. He wanted to come here to meet Donald Trump before the end of the month to finalise details. Not looking likely necessarily.
No, obviously the end of the month it is Sunday, so it seems, given that Thanksgiving sort of takes up Thursday, Friday, it's unlikely that Zelensky's going to be here before then, unless of course he joins the Trumps for Thanksgiving dinner, which would be quite the event.
Yeah, well, you joke, but it genuinely was something that we were all knocking it around as an idea over the course of the day, and then it became actually something a bit more serious. I was being briefed by the Ukrainian side that they were looking into this idea of Zelensky. They definitely wanted him to come to America, But given that Trump was in Mar-a-Lago, would he go there? And then it kind of became a bit of a thing. Actually, would that be a really good opportunity? Would the optics look good to have Zelensky in Mar-a-Lago on Thanksgiving, meeting Trump's self-imposed deadline, signing some sort of a memorandum of understanding, an agreement, something? It might really set things up very well and give Zelensky some credit with Trump. But it wasn't to be. Trump poured cold water over the idea on Tuesday mid-afternoon when he posted on Truth Social that he looks forward to hopefully meeting with Zelensky and Putin soon, but only when the deal to end this war is final, he said, or in its final stages. So that, I think, was kind of put another way, that was like, I'll see you after the weekend. He doesn't believe that we are at a place yet where a final deal can be signed. Why? Well, my guess is it's probably because he knows the Russians are nowhere near happy with this. And on that, he announced in the same post that he's sending Steve Witkoff, his foreign affairs fixer, whatever else you want to call him, to Moscow to meet Putin, and that Dan Driscoll, the army secretary, will go to meet the Ukrainians. So go away, talk a bit more, come back to me when you're a bit more certain.
Yeah, I think it will terrify the Ukrainians that Steve Witkoff is in Moscow speaking to Putin in Putin's warm embrace, or would that be vice-like grip? I can see in that regard, with these discussions ongoing, why Zelensky wants to get in the face of the man ultimately who will make the decision. But, Trump clearly sounds like a president putting on his out of office for Thanksgiving. Having pardoned the turkeys at the White House, he'll be skewering a few down at Mar-a-Lago for the holidays. He talked Ukraine and the prospect of a deal at the White House. And he said, he spoke about his thoughts. He said, it's not easy, but I think we're going to get there. I think we're getting very close to a deal. We'll find out. I think, he said, we're making progress. For a man doing a lot of thinking, I wonder how much he has thought this through. We seem, not for the first time, so far short of a coherent strategy, one that demonstrates a strength and a consistency in the United States, something the Russians would respect and something that would reassure the rest of us. No one's asking him to lay it all out publicly, but we are all looking for a sign that he's in control of events, not for the first time. That's lacking.
One thing we should add is there was a development on Tuesday night, thanks to our colleagues over at Bloomberg. They've got hold of what they say is a recording between Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's peace broker and senior advisors to President Putin, which is from a month or two ago. But it gives a fascinating insight, doesn't it, into the sort of conversations going on behind the scenes between the Americans and the Russians, with Witkoff advising the Russians, so helping them, helping guide them on how they can appeal to his boss, Donald Trump. He was telling, apparently, President Putin to compliment Donald Trump on the Gaza deal, and, the fact that the 20-point plan, the 20-point peace plan there worked quite well. But I think quite remarkable, James, that Witkoff is acting as an advisor to both sides, it seems.
Yeah, Martha, it's eye-watering stuff, I think. Witkoff on these calls, he's talking about deep respect for Putin, telling the Russians Zelensky's coming for a visit to the White House and suggesting that Putin speaks to Trump before that happens. The Russians, we then have them speaking to each other about what to present to the Americans. And they speak about asking for the maximum. One of them suggested sharing a paper informally. He said he was confident if the US didn't accept it, they would at least do something very close to it. And of course, that seems to be the way that things panned out. The Russians were chancing their arm because Witkoff advised them to. He was guiding them. He does a good impression, Witkoff, of being their man on the inside, a useful idiot. And like I say, the thought of him now chatting this through with Putin, going to Moscow for the debrief, that will unsettle Ukraine and Western allies. Witkoff, he's said to have told the Russians, the president will give me a lot of space and discretion to get to the deal. That appears to involve bouncing the Western world into an agreement that threatens Ukraine and reshapes the security infrastructure of Europe, I think. The Kremlin hasn't responded to this report by Bloomberg, but Kirill Dmitriev, who met Witkoff in Miami, he responded on X, calling the story fake.
Jaw-dropping to see the transcripts. None of it, though, I think should surprise us. Witkoff has been open and public about his fondness for Putin for a long time now. I've heard him say it on a number of occasions. He's also displayed what is clearly, I think, a naivety for the subject, unable to name Ukrainian provinces that are in contention. He is his master's fixer, and he wants to fix it for Trump to be able to announce peace, no matter the price, for Ukraine now or Europe down the line. And I think, James, Martha, that's kind of the crux of it. Trump doesn't really care what the peace looks like. Those who say that we're all too cynical will point to the fact that you need to have conversations in private that, when played publicly, might not sound too good. You need maybe to flatter the other side, to school them in how to get a deal with your principal. But remember, this isn't anyone. This is Vladimir Putin we're talking about, the former KGB agent, surely chuckling quietly as he goes up against the former real estate agent, Steve Witkoff. Witkoff will be in Moscow in the days ahead, and I'm sure that in the Kremlin kitchen they're preparing his Thanksgiving turkey as we speak.
I think his goose is cooked, Mark. It would be if he had any other boss than Donald Trump. Now, Martha, plenty of noise here in Washington, D.C., obviously, but on the other side of the country, we're seeing Trump's domestic policies being enacted. You've been out, as you say, on a boat.
Yeah, not doing anything to dispel the idea that we're always out on the water here in Southern California. But yeah, I was off the coast of Huntington Beach, sort of interrogating Donald Trump's campaign promise, which was drill, baby, drill. We heard him say it on the stump time and again. And it seems now that he's attempting to follow through with this proposal to expand fossil fuel production. He's tabled a plan which would open federal waters off the coasts of California, Florida, and Alaska to oil and gas drilling for the first time in decades. And this plan includes areas that have never been touched by oil drilling. More than 1 billion acres in total would be leased to the highest bidder, which is equivalent in size to more than half the total landmass of the United States. So this is a big deal, although many of these auctions of these waters, they take place after he left office. So, it's anyone's guess as to whether it will actually happen.
But the vibe very much is that the United States under Trump is going against the grain of much of the rest of the Western world. And in fact, against the grain of China as well. I mean, China is oddly, some might say, leading the way when it comes to renewables.
Yeah. The rest of the Western world, as you say, Mark, moving away from fossil fuels towards clean energy. Meanwhile, the US seems to be heading in completely the opposite direction, moving back towards them. California, as you both know, it's known for its, beautiful coastline, lots of gorgeous beaches, places like Santa Barbara, Seal Beach, where from the sand you can see these big hulking oil rigs. But many of them are now legacy structures because oil production has been falling. Certainly offshore drilling has been falling off the coast of California. Many of these platforms are being decommissioned. So, for instance, when we were on the boat yesterday, we got close to a place called the Esther Platform Oil Rig. Massive steel structure of compressors and pumps. There were sort of sea lions hugging the metal pillars, birds perched on it. And this rig stopped operating in August this year. California, has been in strong opposition to offshore drilling for decades because they are such an eyesore and they pose such a danger to this stunning environment, which, brings in tourists, lots of surfers, all of that sort of stuff. And there have been disasters here due to offshore oil drilling. There was a massive oil spill off the coast of Santa Barbara back in 1969, which kind of gave birth to the modern environmental movement. And where I was in Huntington Beach, huge oil spill there in 2021, which shut down miles and miles of beaches for days and days. And I was on the boat with an environmentalist guy named Pete Stouffer. He works for an organization called Surfrider, and he said the potential effects should Donald Trump's new plans go into action, could be devastating.
So no disrespect to Mickey Mouse, but you can build another theme park. What we have here is irreplaceable. Yeah. Our beaches, our world-class surf spots, our marine ecosystem, why would we put that at risk?
The line, Martha, from the Trump administration is that drilling will help to make the country energy independent and create new jobs, reduce petrol prices. Does that message resonate at all with some over on the West Coast?
Yeah, I think that idea of bringing petrol prices down, that is huge here. It's a very enticing prospect, but it's a dubious claim because the gas prices are often determined by the global crude oil market. But certainly that messaging is resonating with some people. Most people, I have to say, I spoke to in Huntington Beach were against the idea of more offshore oil drilling. But I spoke to one guy named Johnny Long, and before I'd even finished my question, he was shouting back at me, "Drill, baby, drill."
We need to drill, baby, drill. We need as much oil as possible. It's right below us. We need to take it and extract it and bring the gas prices down.
Some people are worried about the environmental impact. What would you say to that?
I'd say phooey on that. That's ridiculous. It's all a hoax. Climate change is a hoax.
Phooey on that, eh? Trump's got him wrapped up.
Yeah, it's not just sort of people like Johnny who, the environmentalists are at odds with. It's also local politicians in California who point out the potential devastating environmental impacts. One politician in particular is going head to head with Donald Trump on this all over again. Gavin Newsom, who is one of the most effective agitators in the Democratic Party, he described Donald Trump's plans for more offshore drilling as dead on arrival. And he said it's interesting that this proposal doesn't include the waters off Mar-a-Lago, which is, of course, Donald Trump's Florida home. But another thing as well happening in the background, the very week that these plans were being announced was the week of the COP30 climate conference, the UN climate summit taking place in Brazil. And for the first time in the summit's history, there was no official delegation from the United States over there. And, it is an indication of, what this administration thinks about climate change. A lot of them don't believe in it. They think it's a scam.
But Gavin Newsom was there representing, he said, the United States.
I think that was phooey. I think he was representing himself, no?
It was a smart move.
Anyway, guys, at the top of this episode, we talked about the paltry pardons. Well, speaking of pardons, we've had a few emails. Peter's question, he's emailed in to ask what happened to Trump's own lawsuits. Peter, you'd be forgiven for forgetting that Donald Trump was ever indicted quite a few times.
Yeah, thanks for writing in, Peter. 34 of those charges he was facing, he was found guilty of course, before he became president. Again, that was the Stormy Daniels hush money case. The Georgia election interference case, where he called an election official to ask him to find 11,000 votes. That was in the 2020 election. He wanted to win that state. Well, that case is very much dormant. Certainly won't be brought to Trump's door while he's still in the Oval Office. He has the protection of the presidency. That is also because the district attorney in charge of the case, well, she was found to be in a relationship with the man prosecuting that very same case.
The other two cases which were hanging over Donald Trump were being managed by special counsel Jack Smith. Smith charged Trump in August 2023 with conspiring to overturn the results of his election loss to President Joe Biden in the run-up to January the 6th. That case was dropped when Trump was re-elected because the Justice Department says that sitting presidents can't face criminal prosecution. There was also the classified documents case where documents were found in Mar-a-Lago. That was also dismissed when the president won re-election. So far, so good for Donald Trump and what were his legal woes.
Yes, Peter, as Donald Trump might say, all those legal cases were phooey. and he is very happy that they have all gone. They've all amounted to naught for him. Remarkable, but there we go. Thanks for writing in, Peter. If you have a question about anything to do with Trump, Trump World, the vortex that we are in daily, then you know the email address, trump100@sky.uk. We always check the inbox, or the mailbag, as they say here.
We'll be back on Friday, of course. That is after Thursday, which is Thanksgiving on this side of the pond. Martha, Mark, you got big plans?
I have not great big plans, actually, but it's taken me a few years to actually realize what a massive, massive deal Thanksgiving is over here.
Yeah, it is.
It's huge. It's bigger than Christmas. It's big. It's the biggest, and it's actually really nice because no one gives presents. It's kind of, for a commercialized country, for such a hyper commercialized country where they just commercialize everything. Thanksgiving is a bit different, where everyone slows down and genuinely gives thanks. I like it. It's a great tradition.
Mark Stone as the Grinch who stole Christmas there. Martha, what about you?
I'm having an expat Thanksgiving dinner, so we're going to do the traditional, turkey trimmings with a load of Australians and Brits. And yeah, one thing I have banned, though, is that disgusting candied sweet potato that they have. Have you ever had that before? It's like sweet potato with
absolutely
marshmallow on top.
They have a bad habit here of just drenching stuff with other stuff, don't they?
Yeah, but sweet potato and marshmallow, that's got to be the worst combination ever.
And also that green bean casserole. Have you had that?
No.
It's green beans and then mushroom soup that they put over it, and then fried onion over the top. It's gross.
What an adventure. That's LA for you. Well, I'm not having Thanksgiving. I'm actually going home for a couple of weeks back to Edinburgh. So I'm working Christmas. So we're actually going to be having Christmas dinner next week. So there you go.
Okay, well, enjoy it.
Yeah, well, if any turkeys think they're being pardoned in my house, that ain't going to fly, I can tell you.
You've been waiting this whole episode to deliver that line.
Straight from the training ground. Can't believe I remembered it.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. Right, that is it, everyone, if you are still listening. Happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate, and we'll be back on Friday. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. All the best.
See you soon.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.